Two guys in the dark.
So far out of my life, I've had a few scary things that happened to me that all seem to happen around the last 2 years. But before I tell you my incidents, I'll give you detailed descriptions about me and the area that I live in. My name's Adrian. I'm a Hispanic teenager from Fresno, California, and I used to live in the Bay Area. First of all, I'll give you some information because the info will be useful later. One of the stories, I was born in San Francisco, and my family lived there until I was 2. We moved to Fresno in Central California before my younger brother was born. I can straight up tell you right off the bat that Fresno is one of the most ghetto places that you'll live, at least outside of the Los Angeles area. It's not a great city to raise your children in. It's ugly compared to San Francisco. It's a massively run-down, gang-infested city filled with gated houses, graffiti-covered alleyways, a lot of homeless people, and really scary stuff. Every day you get the usual news of someone getting robbed at gunpoint, shot, stabbed, fucked up murders of innocent kids by gangs, or just flat out some weird stuff. It's basically mini Compton in the middle of California. Literally. I live pretty far away from all the crazy stuff that happens around the center of town. We live in a cul-de-sac neighborhood which is pretty quiet, as it is a large suburban area at the very edge of the city, near the highway, and stuff that happens over there are really rare. Until I was proven wrong, at least. Now enough with the background. Let's dive straight into the stories. One night, around December in 2014, before I got out for Christmas break, I was staying up on a Friday night. I was inside my room playing my Xbox 360, while my little brother was in his bedroom behind me, and my mom was in the living room watching her shows. I had a young husky named Kalaman. At the time, he was our guard dog until he ran away. I was minding my own business until I heard him barking outside. I brushed it off as I thought he was just overreacting to his first time seeing a raccoon or a possum along the fence. He kept on barking nonstop for minutes on end. Eventually I got tired of him barking, so I told him to go to bed and shut up. But I didn't realize the rattling and shaking of the backyard gate. By now I was really paranoid of what the hell was going on. I still kept playing GTA 5 until I saw my mom open up my door. Her face looked like she saw something really unpleasant that shook her up. She was slightly panting until I told her what was going on. She said that she saw someone running across our front yard to the backyard gate. My heart felt like I was swallowed, and then it was down my throat to my stomach. I told her, "How did you see him if you had all your windows to the house with the window blinds closed?" She said that she kept the very bottom blind cracked open to see if there was anyone approaching the house. My mom told me and my little brother to get out of our rooms, since they were the first couple of rooms near the gate, and she told me to hide with her in her bedroom down the hall while she went to the garage to pick up my dad's machete, my metal baseball bat, and her antique obsidian knife from Mexico to defend ourselves. She had the doors locked to the house before this, and she shut off all the lights. I closed the door quietly and locked it as I stayed in her room, scared to death of what would happen to us. I prayed to God in Spanish, quietly, since I didn't want to die young in my life. We still heard Kalaman's barking from the other end of the yard until it became dead quiet. I was scared. I didn't know if he had stopped, or worse. I soon fell asleep with the baseball bat next to my side. The next morning we checked around the house to see if anything happened. He was still alive and okay, but my mom had the same face that she had last night. She got a phone call from my neighbor 2 houses up the cul-de-sac from us, that her house was robbed because her garage door was busted, and the robber barged into her house and stole her husband's computer and lots of her money. I felt so bad for her because she had herself and her family in danger of that creep. From then on, my mom gave us a weapon to defend ourselves if this happens again. The second scary incident happened the next year in early 2015, around winter or spring. I was done finishing my game, and I decided to watch some TV with my mom to keep her company. It was around 9:50 p.m. until we got a ring from the doorbell. At first I knew it couldn't be my dad, Dad does come home around this time during the weekend when he comes back from working as a semi-truck driver. He usually works all week going up as far north as Salt Lake City, Utah, just for us to have food on the table. And second, he always had a way of ringing the doorbell so that we can recognize him. But I knew this wasn't my dad. Mom told me to stay on the sofa as she walked to the door. She said in her gentle voice, trying to be polite as possible, "Hello, is anyone there?" From the other side, I heard a chilling response from the other side of the front door. An old, shaky, and unfamiliar voice called from the other side. It's me. I'm your neighbor. I need something. Can you let me in your house?" Mom and I were scared shitless, as we knew our neighbors really well in our area, and this man didn't sound familiar at all. I looked through the blinds, and I saw a filthy-looking, supposedly homeless man who looked like he was in his early 50s. He had baggy dark eyes, and he was shaking like he was a twitchy mouse. He looked like a heavy meth head. When my mom responded, "What neighbor?" the creepy guy didn't say shit after her question. I can tell, he looked like a complete dumbass compared to my mom's sharp wit. My mom responded back, annoyed, and bothered to the stupid shithead. "Go away from our house, or I'll call the cops to arrest you. There's no business for you to be here. Go away." My mom isn't an asshole when it comes to people at her door, but if it's a sketchy person, that she can easily sniff them out. The man quickly and aggressively tried to come in by jiggling the doorknob, but he looked too weak to even push the door open. Eventually he gave up, and we heard the creep's footsteps hastily and clumsily walk away from our door and our house. I knew it was some sort of creepy homeless dude just by the sound of his voice. I'm not saying all the homeless people are creepy, but he was definitely strange, and he wanted to come in our house at 10 o'clock at night and possibly do something to us that was unpleasant. I could easily tell the difference between an innocent homeless person who asked for money to buy food and a deranged one who wanted to harm someone to get the money, because I live in the Tenderloin neighborhood in San Francisco, where it ran heavy with homeless people. But the homeless usually all live in downtown and San Fresno, which are far away, and it's really rare to even see them up here. But luckily my mom wasn't stupid to this kind of bullshit. But the scary stuff doesn't seem to end for me. It doesn't always seem to go away here in Fresno. Across the cul-de-sac from me, there's a house that looks like it's in good condition. However, the person that lives there is really freaky to me. His car seems to always never be used at all, like it hasn't been driven or touched, in years at least. And he has his windows shut, and his door is closed. The worst part, he never steps a single footstep, not even a full step out of his house. Anyways, it was around 1:20 in the afternoon. I was going into my junior year at high school. I was ready to practice driving out on a rural field, roads outside of Fresno with my dad. As soon as me and him started walking out the garage to my grandpa's Toyota Camry, we saw what I suppose was the dude from the house, standing outside. He was wearing a black hoodie jacket with the hood over his head. He had dirty old jeans, and he was facing his car, downwards to the floor. He just freakishly stood there like a statue, not even moving a single muscle. My freakometer was ringing. I walked to my grandpa's car with my dad and prepared to drive out of our street. I told my dad in Spanish, "Who was that? The neighbor, or is it someone who's looking for trouble?" Dad responded to me in Spanish that he wasn't sure. He told me not to look at him, as I made a U-turn around the cul-de-sac to get out. I slightly moved my eyes to go look at him, and he looked back at me. He barely had visible eyes. I was really scared. He looked at me like he had some weird intention. My dad scolded me for not paying attention. I told him that I couldn't help, that it freaked me out. When we came back around at 3:44, the weird fucker was gone. I think he decided to retreat back to his house like the hermit crab that he was. I told my little brother about it. He says he does feel scared when he used to play outside on the street with his friends, on their scooters, as he would see the blinds slightly open. I feel so annoyed that this hermit's presence is near me. How does he buy food when he runs out? How does he pay the bills to his house? I personally want to smash the pedophile's head out with my bat. And just recently this Monday, I saw him sitting slouched like a hunchback on his walkway to his door with his hoodie covering up his face, while I was taking out the garbage bins. He just seemed to stare at me with a blank expression, like if that was his intention. I locked the backyard gate, and I sped walking to the garage and shut it closed. He always made me feel so uneasy. I just hope that the city moves, or relocates him somewhere else. I thought everything that was creepy would stop, but it suddenly shifted over to my little brother. We'll call him Yzma. A few months ago in October, coincidentally, Yzma had gotten repetitive calls from an unknown number when he got his first phone. He said that the number would call him twice, or even 5 times a day. This was very unusual, and I told him that I'll block the number for him. I was pissed that I found out I couldn't block an unknown number. And FYI, Yzma's phone was an iPhone 5S. After this, I told him firmly that if the number calls him when I'm around, I will talk to this moron. 3 days passed. I was with my mom to go pick Yzma up from school. He came over, and I hugged him and kissed him. Don't mind that. Passionate love for your family members is strong in Mexican or Hispanic heritage. I told him, how was your day? He replied back to me, it went great, but I looked at Yzma's face. He looked scared and nervously shy. I told him, ¿Qué pasa? Did that stupid number call you again? He said to me in a nervous voice, well, yes, that number called 3 times. One during my second period, and the next during 4th period, and the last one was at lunch. It feels our conversation was interrupted by the rumbling at Yzma's phone. I grabbed the phone and said, hello? Who is this? All I heard on the other side of the call was a faint breathing. I instantly hung up and said to Mom, Madre, that unknown number was someone. Mom had said, well then, who is it? I said back chillingly, all I heard was breathing. My mom had looked like she jumped for a second while she was driving. She said that if the creep calls again, to have me or Dad pick up and answer the call. I nodded. The next day on Saturday, I was helping Dad in the backyard when Yzma opened his window and told me to come over, that the man was calling him yet again. I ran over to my brother's window, and I picked up the phone. I said pissed off, hello? Who the fucking hell are you? The raspy voice of an old man that sounded like he was in his 50s said back, I'm trying to look for my kid. Have you seen him? All I want is my kid. He's a naughty little boy. I looked at the gate to see if someone was looking at me. There's no one. I raged back at him. Listen, you sick fuck. There's no kids that you are missing. Don't call this number back again, or I'll fuck you up and make you look like an accident. Just before I was about to say some more, I heard laughing, and the man hung up immediately. I'm not an asshole, but he sounded like he wanted to kidnap my little brother. He was 12, and I was 16. I hugged my brother and told him that I'll hurt the man if he ever lays a finger on him. He appeared to be stalking my little brother while he was at school. The next day on Sunday, me, Yzma, and Dad and Mom were all going to go eat. We decided to go to a nearby Wendy's until you guessed it. The sick guy called him yet again. By this time, I was pissed beyond belief. I told my dad in Spanish. Again, Dad speaks more Spanish, but he knows a good amount of English. Papi, this cabron was calling Yzma for weeks. Can you deal with this pendejo? I dealt with him, and it doesn't seem to stop. Dad said yes. I gave him the phone. I looked around if anyone was sketchy, was tailgating us. The pedophile was saying the same shit that he said to me. Dad said yes, and I gave him the phone. The pedophile was saying the same shit that he said to me. Dad's alarm bell was ringing, and he said sternly and angrily, Listen, pal, I have no clue who you are, but please stop fucking calling this number. The dumbass constantly tries to interrupt my dad. No, 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 listen, you stupid fuck. Don't call this fucking number, or I'll have the police deal with you. And me personally. Shut up. Okay. Have a nice day. The pedophile stopped calling Yzma ever since then, and I'm glad. Thank you, Dad, for telling the pedophile to screw off. So those are my 4 stories. Right after I graduate high school, I plan on moving and going to college in San Francisco where I feel more at home and a lot more safer. I honestly hate Fresno's violent and creepy atmosphere compared to the bustling safety of San Francisco. And up to this day, I still live in paranoia of my surroundings. So I guess your lesson from me is from that we live in a world with really scary and sick-minded people. Even though we may not like them, they're always going to share this world with us, whether we like it or not. Stay safe, people. And to the burglar, the creepy-ass homeless man, the hermit crab neighbor, let's never meet again. It's summertime again. To be honest, I don't like staying at home during this season. My mom had always been nagging me to look for a summer job, which I really don't like. I've been studying the whole year, and now I'm going to tire myself to work again for the rest of the vacation. Come to think of it, I heard that my aunt has a wide, beautiful farm. According to Dad, Aunt Eliza is really good at taking care of it. Thus, the fruits of her labor had always been that bountiful. I decided to stay there for a while and chill. The best part of staying at my aunt's is that I get to see my pretty cousin, Mana. She's cute and all, but of course, she looks at me only as a cousin. The eldest, Johanna, treats me like a big bro. It's really cool staying here. The only thing I really wonder about Aunt's place is that the town is not as populated as the other province. I guess you could say people are moving and going to the nearest cities. Living in a province is indeed a tough thing, especially if you're like me, a city guy, who enjoys malls, bars, game rooms, and different establishments that are derived to be seen in a faraway town. Nevertheless, it's a good place. Since you came all the way from Manila, I guess that you could try out our new harvested tomatoes. They're really tasty, Uncle Fred said to me. Aunt Eliza quickly took them out of the basket, washed them, and then placed them well in a plate. As I munched on the first one, I quickly had the delicious taste of the tomato. It was juicy, and for some reason the taste was intoxicating. Mana and Johanna was laughing at me, and told me it was as if it was my first time eating a fresh tomato. I just smiled, and then continued eating. Early in the morning, I helped Uncle Fred cleaning the house, and tended the water buffaloes. I kept wondering, why do I feel as if I love helping them more than I do with my own parents? I guess Aunt Eliza is just that kind. I went with her and my cousins to go pick out the strawberries, potatoes, and soursop fruits. I thought Dad was just exaggerating, but it's really true. It's a whole lot. I told Aunt, and she just laughed at me. Mana and Johanna laughed with her, as they know it was some form of compliment for their hard work. Well, if you see, the land here is really nutritious. It's as if it was blessed by the heavens. You can see how it is a bit darker than the usual ones you walk on, right? My aunt replied. Yeah. We don't use too much fertilizer. We don't use the sprayers that aren't organic. It ruins the taste of the fruit and the crops. I believe you know what I mean. The strawberries around your place aren't as tasty as the ones here, she continued. That I have to agree. I mean, sometimes the strawberries are sappy. The apples are cotton, and such. I guess this is the reason why my aunt's crops aren't the same as the ones commercialized out there. Dad is once a farmer, and he himself told me that most farmers are now not always producing organic products anymore. I noticed none of them even got blighted. I continued and helped Aunt carry the heavy basket of soursop as we traversed the path to their house. All I can say is that it's a blessing, she replied, and then smiled at me. It's my fourth day when I decided to walk around the town by my own. Mana said that she's going to farm to remove the weeds while Johanna is busy studying for his upcoming college entrance exam. As I was walking to the road, going to the local market, I saw a few teenagers chatting on a run-down bench. I tried to wave at them and smiled. They smiled back, but I can see that they're wondering who the hell I am. I went near them and tried to make friends. My name's Diego. This is Mariana, Linda, Jason, and of course our fat friend Tony, said the oldest as they laughed at their friend. My name's Daniel. Daniel sparks up, I replied and started talking to them on the bench. I learned that they were born and raised in the province, and they were chatting about something pretty creepy. You're from the city, so you probably heard of it, Jason told me. About what, I wondered. Well, old people are rare here. We were once featured on the television and the radio stations, because this place rarely has any old people around. You said you're Tita Eliza's nephew. They still look so young, despite their age. Come to think of it, Jason's right. I never saw much old people around. I only saw people that were young and middle-aged. Yeah, which reminds me, where are the old people around? Are they taken to the home of the aged or something, I asked. And then I roamed my questioning eyes to each of them. That's what we're chatting before you came. They just disappear, Mariana had answered. She had a gloomy mood after what she said. Disappeared? Yeah, you see, they just do. We tried to ask the local police and the town sentries to look for them, but they were unsuccessful. It became a tradition. The old people accepted that they would just disappear and die along the way without getting buried, Diego had continued to explain. I just chuckled, shook my head in disbelief. This story they're telling me is pretty ridiculous. I know it's hard to believe, but you can ask the local police for the records, Tony had dared me. I was rather unbelieving, but Tony had a very concerning look. I just never had the chance to see a province that would just accept their death as disappearance and such. Weird. I wonder why Aunt Eliza wants to live in this place. I went back full of questions in my head, but at least I got a few new friends out of it. They were younger than me, though. Ah, how was your stroll? My aunt had asked. She was washing the dishes as I entered the lounge and joined my cousins and Uncle Fred. I made friends with some teenagers around town, though. What they were saying is unbelievable, I answered. Unbelievable, huh? Asked Johan. Well, one of them said that there was no old people around here because they went missing. I noticed most people here are younger or middle-aged like Aunt Eliza. Both Aunt and Uncle looked at each other. My cousins had too. After a while, my Uncle Fred laughed it out. They just want to scare you. It was a rumor going around. But really they are buried in the cemetery, that's for sure, he said afterwards. Yeah, just don't mind them. I'm sure that they convinced you with their serious faces. Johan seconded. After that, the idea never got into my head again. It's my last day before going back home to the city. Aunt Eliza invited me to the local fair market with the whole family, but I said that I'll be here for a few hours and just follow them afterwards. The curiosity got into me. I went to their farm and tried to marvel at the crops. It was just so abundant. I looked at the soil, and my aunt was right. I can see that the soil is not abused with any kind of fertilizer that might ruin the taste of the crop. Chicken dung, a few moringa leaves, and compost were the only ones that I see mixed into the soil. What's this? Cat hair, I murmured, as I noticed that there were a few hair strands along the soil that I just held. I tried singing it out, and I noticed that the hair is long for any kind of animal, especially the ones that I see in the whole town. I took the lighter into my pocket and started blazing it. A familiar smell had entered my system. Human hair. A chill went down my spine, made me tremble for a moment, but I'm sure this is just my aunt's hair that probably fell out. To convince myself of the case, I tried wandering my eyes, but I was rather countered by what I saw. There were more of those hairs I just saw. It was mixed into the soil. I went back to the house. I grabbed a shovel, went back to the farm, and I started digging. It was not just some kind of a joke. This is reality. It was not a deep one, but I saw human bones and wormed flesh. I tried digging on the other parts of the farm, and more I was convinced that I thought of it what was happening. The missing people are used as a fertilizer. I tried to compose myself and fix what I dug. I went back to the house and called the local police. Police station. Hello. Hello, I just want to confirm. Is it true that you have a long list of missing people here? Normally old age, I asked. I don't know if the officer noticed my not-so-composed voice. Oh, another journalist? Well, yeah, we've got around 40 already. Who knows? Next year it may be 50. I would just want to report where you can find those missing people, I said, without any hesitation. What? Are you serious? What do you mean by that? The officer had asked. Curious and based from his tone, he wants to know pretty quickly. Just come. I was not able to continue what I was about to say when my aunt and her whole family stood on the door looking at me. She was holding a basket of tomatoes. Oh, so you're still here, Daniel. I thought you might like our freshly picked tomatoes. We went to the farm just now before going back here," said my Uncle Fred. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.